was the reason why I had the stress and I had the anxiety almost every day going to work. Like something bad is gonna happen at
Like
work.
you didn't like at some point you didn't even know what to expect. Like, you go to work that day. You don't even know. Like I don't even know what the mood is going to be like. I don't even know if the person's going to be going to like me today. You don't know what to expect because some people you're dealing with are in a bipolar mindset. Not saying they're bipolar, but when you're dealing with a bipolar work environment, you can go into the work environment and it may be mania that day, and then you might go into the work environment that day and it's a depressive environment or oppressive environment that day. Welcome to another episode of What's Up with DJ. I'm your host, DJ. Each week, I bring you topics about current events, career development, finance, holistic living, life hacks, and stories of inspiration and humor, all from a spiritual perspective. So be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and consider leaving a review on Apple Podcast. Your thoughts, opinions, and comments are always encouraged and appreciated. With that being said, let's get right into the show. My guest this week is Vivi Tai. She's a Vietnamese author currently residing in Canada. Her book, Living Through Alchemy, A Transformational Journey to Freedom, describes her courageous escape from the chains of expectation. She's now discovering what it means to be free. Her book serves as a heartfelt tribute to the life-changing potential of alchemy. She received her Bachelor's of Science in Chemical Engineering from Texas A&M University and a Master of Biomedical Engineering from Cornell University. So that means she's really, really smart. During this episode, we will discuss her struggles while living in the U.S. and why she started a new life in Canada. So, regardless of how smart you are and how talented you are, how pretty you are, you're going to have some struggles. She embarked on what she calls van life. Van life has simplified and uncovered her life's true purpose, and she lives and travels in her vintage Dodge van with her dog Marco. V helps her clients find their path to personal freedom and live their authentic selves through Reiki and meditation. And you can find her book, Living Through Alchemy, A Transformational Journey to Freedom, on Amazon. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me here. I love the bio. It's so sweet.
Yes. It's one thing that I'm so good at. I'm so good at creating a bio. It's actually one of my favorite parts about doing the podcast. Outside of having the discussion, is actually researching somebody and finding out their history and things like that. I love going through their different social profiles, LinkedIn profile, and just putting together their story. So, what is van life?
So, van life has actually been around for several decades now. I think I met someone who actually lived in the van in the 1970s. So I know that it has been around for a long time. But recently, it just got a lot of attention to the public because of YouTube, So now you go to Van Life.
And I love your YouTube. She has a YouTube show on YouTube, and I have the link in the show description. I love your YouTube show.
Thank you so much. Because of YouTube, so Van Life just got the huge spotlight, and it just got really popular these days for the last several years. Because it shows that the free lifestyle is really attractive to people, especially to people feel stuck, and people feel like they have the desire to like break free from the social norm and have an experience, like a lifetime experience, because it's all about adventures. It's all about like YOLO, you only live once. Um, so van life had got really popular on YouTube for that reason, and that's actually how I got to find out about van life as well. And but at the time when I discovered van life, it was I was in the period of my life, like the blank slate in my life, and I wanted to do something differently, like live differently, because I wasn't happy with the life that I lived back in the US. And I discovered van life after I left the US. Like it's very popular in US and Canada. So only after I left the US and went back to Vietnam, and I was kind of like seeking within myself, like what is it that I really wanted to do with my life, and how I want to live differently. And traveling has always been really my passion. So I wasn't really happy living in Vietnam because I didn't feel like I could fit in with the culture there anymore, even though after like coming back to Vietnam after having living in the US for so long.
Yeah, it's a culture shock.
Yeah,
Either
it
way you look
was
at it,
for me.
going to Vietnam to US, I'm sure was a culture shock, and then living in US and then going back to Vietnam, I'm sure was a culture shock.
Yeah,
But the other way around. But
yeah.
we'll get into your story about your journey from Vietnam to the U.S. because that's really about expectation. That's a great book back in the day called Great Expectations, and it sort of reminded me of your story. I mean, I don't know if it's the book or not, but it's like your story and that story like almost identical. you know.
Yeah.
So van life from looking at your podcast, not your podcast, your YouTube channel, VV Thai on YouTube, it actually shows your day to day, like how you get ready. I saw one episode where you actually getting out of bed, you're brushing your teeth, you're preparing for the day, you're considering shopping. Did I get a chance to swim today? So and you're with your dog, and I thought it was so sweet, and it's like simplifying your life to a place where you're not dealing with all these external things that sort of pull you away from your spiritual calling.
Yeah, it's all about minimalism and really exploring. Every day is all exploring something new. Like unless if you choose to stay in one area, like some people really do that with van life. It's really about the purpose and the intention you put behind it. Because for some people, they want to live in a van in order to cut living expenses so they can save up money for something else, like to buy a house later, for instance, or to have more expensive on their food, or somewhere else in different categories. So there's certainly multiple different benefits of van life, but for me, the reason why I chose to go with van life and how I came to Canada and decided, okay, this is the lifestyle that I want to go with, because I wanted to live a different lifestyle. I wanted to explore, and I didn't want to cut expenses just so I didn't have to work so much, so I have the free time to explore myself.
Yeah.
Not just like in nature, but also explore within myself, because I had more free time to focus on my passion, to focus on personal development and take courses and learn meditation and all that. So that's what van life has done for me, and that's what it has meant for me, because that was the intention that I put in when I decided to go with this lifestyle. But it may not happen for other people if but if their major intention is all about just saving money, or just like travel for short term, then they may not necessarily have the same benefits or have the same impact from van life is it's me because I choose to go with van life because of a different reason, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
here we have the caravans, like the Winnebagos here. People, I don't know if people go on vacations here and they get in those
Yeah, yeah,
Winnebagos or
yeah.
whatever. I know one friend, he retired and he bought a little small Winnebago. He was going to try around the country in his Winnebago. I don't know if that worked out or not. He's still doing that or whatever. Sometimes people, they're not so committed to it,
Yeah.
but it's a fancy version of a simplified way. But let's talk about Great Expectations. So you're living in Vietnam, and at the time you was born 1986, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what was going on in Vietnam at that time when you were born, and some of the things that you faced during that time period, a bit just growing up in Vietnam?
Yeah, that is such a good question. So because the Vietnam gained independent in 1975 after the Vietnam War with the U.S. That was when we actually gained the independence. So when I was born, it was just only like 11 years after the Vietnam War. So the country was just like started to put everything together pretty much. It's all about survival in that era. And the country struggle a lot. Every family struggle a lot, and it's like my family had basically enough to eat. And I remember when the house that I was born in, and I grew up when I was little, there was like more than 10 of us like sleeping together in a tiny little house, probably just like one bedroom house.
It was preparing you for van life.
It was like a tiny house, but like 10, 15 people that like sleeping all together. I have like because my mom has 6 kids, one of them died, and my dad, and also my cousin and some helpers and nannies that was like living with us as well, because my parents had to work full time. So obviously I didn't grow up in a very fancy and rich, wealthy environment. But so that was during the time that I was born, but like about 10 years after, when the economy started to pick up, like slowly after the war, my family financially also slowly gaining more in finance as well, and that's why we moved into a different house. But like during that period of time, when I was born until like I think until I was like 10 or 11 years old, was I think it was kind of like the trouble time for my family, because there was a lot of trauma, a lot of drama in my family, because we all lived together, and like my father didn't really get along with my dad, so there was constant fight. And during that time, it's like almost every family has fights, and it's very common to hear people like screaming and fighting and yelling in the neighborhood. It's very common. It would be not common if you don't hear that every day. You know?
Wow. Okay.
So, but like growing up, I didn't know like that was uncommon, like how that troublesome that was. And there was always fighting in my house, in my family. And my caretakers was not very nice. And, if we misbehave, kids in Vietnam that misbehave, they'll be beaten pretty hard.
Now, would they beat you with would they beat you with a belt, or would they beat you with
a stick? With a stick.
With a stick. Wow. Okay.
Yes. And because my mom is Catholic, so I grew up Catholic, and I went to Catholic school, preschool and elementary. So if you write like this with like a knuckle on, like with the shape like this, you would get knocked with a stick on your knuckles.
Wow. Why was that? Why would having your knuckle out a bad thing?
I don't know, because they really consider it's bad writing.
Oh,
And you cannot really write on your left hand. You have to write on your right hand.
yeah. I was in a call yesterday, and that left hand thing is a bad thing for people. They were saying that she was a demon person, or it was just like
Yeah.
it just. I know in Hinduism, there's an issue with left-handed people. They're considered
Yeah.
sometimes demonic, which is weird. And then she said that when she went to no, I'm sorry, yeah, something about when she was being raised in some, I can't remember what church it was, but just the idea of being left-handed was something bad about that. And then in Hinduism, you're not allowed to even do certain rituals with your left hand. You got to kind of grab with your right hand. I'm like, what? So
Yeah, but it's like,
this.
but left-handed people are actually very creative and it's connect to your right brain. So the more like you use your left hand, it's actually help you to develop your right brain, which is more intuitive.
Yeah, I would think so, but I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, religion has always has jacked a lot of people up. I have to I have to say.
I think probably that's the reason why we all have that blocked from our own intuition and then our connection to the universe, because of those beliefs and those restrictions. But okay, so let's get back to your question about the expectation.
Hmm.
Because of that childhood situation where I grow up, because my family have to struggle so much to go from poverty into like where they are today. My mom had to work insanely, an intense amount of time in order to support all her kids, and along with my dad, because she had 6 kids altogether, and she got married when she was very young. At the age 24, she already had 4 kids, and she raised them all by herself during the war. So can you imagine how much struggle she was in? So
Yeah.
like when I understand her in that situation, like I feel a lot more compassionate for her expectation of me.
Hmm.
And that when they let me to study abroad in the US, certainly they have to have a lot of expectation
So,
because
so,
the
so,
amount
other
of
words,
investment.
your parents saw that you were. Like, I know this kid is smart. I know this person enjoys studying and she enjoys learning. So
Yeah,
let's invest money in her. Maybe all the other
yeah,
kids. They we love the other kids too, but we see that Vivi is something special
yeah,
about her, and we want to put money into her. We want to save money for her. We want to actually send her overseas to get even more educated. So they really had a plan for you in terms, not like a
yes,
plan like laid out, but they had expectation that you're going to be great. So we're going to save this money for your education and also plan to send you overseas to get more
yes.
educated. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. So that exactly what happened. Because I think it's because my mom felt pretty bad that my older siblings, she didn't have enough time to take care of my older siblings, and there's a big age gap between us. And because they was born during the war also, so I think I'm kind of lucky. I'm kind of like I'm in the middle between my siblings, but somehow I'm the lucky one
I
among
always say
my
the same thing.
siblings.
People always say that the middle child. I'm like being the middle child actually is the best place. You don't get all the responsibility, and sometimes the children who are less, are born later. They don't get all the attention from the parents. It's sort of like your parents go like,
Yeah,
go ahead and
yeah.
take care of them. So to me, it was like the perfect place for to be the middle child. So
Yeah,
I get that.
yeah.
Do you feel? I say I feel lucky to be the middle child. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was the second youngest, and because when I was little, I loved science and I loved to learn, and I was very studious, you know. And I always really followed the curfew. I was a really good kid. Like I never caused any issues, and I was very shy. Like to me, like I go to school and then come back home and do homework. That's
Mm.
it. That was pretty much my childhood until like high school. So I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed dating. I wasn't allowed going out past curfew. I wasn't even allowed to wear makeup at all. Even when I was in high school, like I was not even familiar with makeup until like I came to the US. Like until I went to after graduate school, that I got to learn about makeup. But that's how strict that was in my family. And I was very much like I wanted to make my family and my mom proud, because she like because of my education, and she could see that I always pay attention in school, and she just like give me the knowledge like that. Not really expectation so much, but more so like she never actually gave me any compliment. It's really interesting. Like my family never really give me any compliments.
So that's pretty much like in Vietnamese culture. Like sometimes I know where I'm from, we don't say "I love you" a lot. It's like it's understood. Like you should know we love you. So why me to tell you that? So it's not always. It's not all like the people. My parents, it just their parents did not cuddle them. It just wasn't. It didn't make any sense. They didn't want you to be a crybaby, so they didn't do those things. So
that's what is. I have problem giving compliments to people. I had problem with expressing my feelings also because I wasn't really familiar with all of that growing up. Like it's more like she would just like my mom would just tell me, okay, this is the plan. Whether you want to like go for it or not, and she would ask me what kind of school you want to go to, and she would just kind of like help me with those plans. And because I was very ambitious, I'm type A.
You have to be to do all that. You would have to be a type A personality to say, okay, I'm Vietnamese. I don't know about the U.S., but I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to Cornell. I'm going to get a degree in biomedical engineering. So there has to be something about your personality that says I want the big fish.
Exactly.
So,
and my parents could see that, and that's why they put their investment in me, and that comes out as an expectation. It's part of it is also because of me as well. Like I said, because I'm very much like a very ambitious person and very high achiever. So that's the reason why like they feel they're putting the investment on me in order like to study abroad, because I was the first person in my family to ever leave the country, to live outside the country and live on my own at a very young age.
So you wanted to go to Canada all along?
Yeah, like back then when I was a kid, I actually wanted to go to Canada.
So why Canada? Why Canada back then when you was in Vietnam?
Because it's a cold climate, and Vietnam was a tropical country. It's just very different. And they have friendly reputation. So that's what I wanted to see, is the snow.
Oh, okay. Well, you actually like being in a cold climate. Now
I don't.
Okay, your cup is like I got it. I got the postcard. I'm good.
Yeah. Like back then, I was curious, like what, because like in Vietnam we never have snow. But in Canada is a much colder country, so I was very curious about it. So that was what intrigued me. I didn't mind about the cold. I would just wanted to explore different places. So even back then, I already have the desire to travel. After they let me know that I had the opportunity to go to the US, of course I say yes.
Okay, yeah, like you know what, the US is just a little bit lower than Canada. I'm good. We can do that. So now you're in the U.S. now. You're in college in the U.S. and you're highly competitive. You definitely you're choosing some very competitive colleges. You're in very competitive colleges. So you definitely are proving yourself. that you belong, in those environments. So you're getting your degrees, and now you're in corporate America, and also, I'm a career coach, so I do have clients who require a HB1 visa in order to work here, and
Yeah.
so that really plays a big part in your
Yeah.
experience. So what was that like? I mean, I work in corporate America. I know it's an undertaking. For sure.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
what was your experience working in corporate America?
So my first working experience with MIT, like I love everything there, and but then I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was good enough because I was surrounded with all the top of the top scientists and researchers and doctors and professors in the country, in the world, actually. Um, so for me at that time,
And
I
you was
was
in
very shy.
Boston. Were you in Boston at that? I mean, where were you at this
I was in
particular?
Boston.
Okay, it was in
Yeah, I
Boston.
was in
Okay.
Boston. Yeah, so I was very shy and I never felt like I knew enough. I never felt like my degree, my undergrad degrees was good enough, or like whether I, I knew that I did a very good job on that project. But I never felt like I could fit in because I felt so bad about myself for not having like a PhD or like a postdoc degree to work in that environment. That's
Yeah.
what it felt like for me.
Yeah, where's the
To
class for that? Like, give me the class. Like, you training me to do all these other things. Like, train me to deal with the stress. Train me to deal. Where's the class in college to
Yeah.
that would be probably the best class you could give someone. How do you deal with the stress
Yeah.
of corporate America? So
Yeah.
one of the things that I really want to look at, because reading your book, and the living through alchemy, a transformational journey to freedom. I want to really, which is on Amazon. I really want to really look at when you're in corporate America, and people this conversation are going to be able to relate of the frustration. Here you are, a Vietnamese woman, highly educated, highly determined, have a history, of struggle. So you're not there just by accident. It took people who were like, you're going to be here, you're going to be great, and you're now sitting here, doing this, and you're determined. You're finding out for yourself. This doesn't feel right. This
Yeah.
isn't going the way that I expected. I don't want to say, oh shit, but I've had that moment when I go,
Yeah.
I've gotten everything that I wanted up until now, but this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
that
So
began to happen, what was your thoughts?
yeah. That began to happen actually before I started my first job. Um, uh, no, before I started my second job. Like after I was working at MIT, then I went to grad school, then I graduated. The reason I went to grad school was because I wanted to get that H-1B visa. So I wanted to make myself more valuable to the application, to the H-1B application. The higher degree you get, the easier for you to get a job, and so easier for you to get sponsorship. So that was my reason. H-1B visa was my reason to get to grad school. And then after I graduated, I applied to work for a really big hospital also in Boston because I wanted to go back and live in Boston. And that before I started the job, I had kind of like an intuitive feeling that something was wrong. Like something wasn't right. But I didn't have any choice. It was the only company that could sponsor me to stay in the US and to work in the US. And that's what I wanted at the time. That was what I was going after, because I wanted to get the green card eventually. Because to me, that was like the path to freedom. You know, if you get to stay in the US, if you get the green card citizenship.
And so let me understand the H-1B. So once you to stay in, you said because you're not a citizen of the U.S. to keep your to be to be here, you have to have a job, maintain a job. That job has to sponsor you by purchasing that AB1 visa, the HB1 visa. I'm saying it correctly.
H-1B visa,
visa,
yeah,
and
you can't purchase it. Like the employer would have to apply for you, and they're the one that paying the fee. Now the fee is not that big of a deal for employer. If they can sponsor you, it's only a couple $1,000. It's just because of the document and the processing.
The red tape.
It takes time, and there's always certain restriction there. And so that's the reason why a lot of employers, they don't really want to deal with that, especially if they want someone to work on a certain project like right away. If it takes time for them to process, it's a little bit of hassle for them to do that. But if they do get to sponsor you, you would have to rely on them. If you lose your employment, you will not have the permission to stay in the country. So you entirely depend on the employer.
How long to happen immediately? If you lose, wow. So if I get if Friday they say don't come back on Monday, then immediately I got to start packing my stuff, or they don't give me a month or something.
So that's where it's getting really interesting, because the immigration law is very messy. There's nowhere in the law that says you have to leave immediately, even though it's not really specified. But in the law, it does say that if your visa expires, and your visa is expired when your employment is terminated, then you have to leave the country. Because if you stay over your expiration date, then you violate the law. And so, like, if you violate, then it would prevent you to come back to the country. If they can see that, it would prevent you to come back.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You may have a ban. You may have a ban for 10 years.
So why wouldn't you just get? Why not just get citizenship? Why not just you don't want, maybe you didn't want to reason? I mean, I don't really understand, because I've been here all my whole life, so I don't know. Yeah. But why not just get citizenship? I'm going to become a U.S. citizen, or I'm going to get dual citizenship. Why not just do that? So
you can't get the citizenship until you pass through all of that, until you have to stay on H-1B visa for. Let's say since the beginning, I was an exchange student. So I was on J1 visa, and then I switched to F1 visa, which is like a foreign student, international students. And that allowed me a certain time, like maybe 1 year, to stay within the country in order to find a job. If I don't find a job within that year, I would have to go back home. And if I do find a job, then I get to stay here. But that job I would have to switch my visa from F1 to H1B. Visa, which is the working visa and no longer a student visa, So on H-1B visa, it would give you you would have to reapply every 3 years. So if you stay on H-1B visa for 6 years, then you are allowed to apply for green card. So when you apply for green card, then you have to stay in green card for 5 years in order to apply for citizenship. So you cannot just have to go through that.
Oh, it's
apply for citizenship immediately. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not because you just come to the country and you stay there for a certain period of time, and then you can apply for citizenship right away. It doesn't happen that way.
Doesn't work that way.
And so. Yeah, and that was my target though. Like I wanted.
Yeah, because you were like, okay, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to do this. Yes. Whatever I got to say, whatever I got to do, no problem. I want to get the citizenship. But it just
the requirement is like, well, the higher degrees you get, the more job experience that you have, the easier it would be for you, because you be more valuable for the market and for the employer,
So
allowed
so
to
so
switch to
if
different
you
employers.
so if you would say you were an employer for 3 years and then you change to a different employer, does that start over again? I mean,
Yeah,
does
they
it?
would have to start. They would have to start the H-1B application process all over again.
Oh God, that sounds so hard. So you got all that going on, and you're not having a good experience. You're finding out that corporate America has limitations. That people are backstabbing, people betray you, people don't treat you well. They hang your the visa over your head. They and you seem to be a very easygoing, nice person, and sometimes in corporate America, those individuals you get trampled on because they feel like they take kindness for weakness.
Yeah, I think there's one level of discrimination for sure, and I know that a lot of international students like me at that time. It was very difficult to get the H-1B, not just because of all those limitations, because there's limit number of H-1B visa that they give out per year. They're only like 60 something thousand H-1B visa they give out a year, and there was like millions of people apply. So you have to really be on top of your game in order to get that H-1B, and there's only a certain period of time within the year that you can apply for it. So
Wow.
it was insane, very complicated.
It sounds very complicated. So at this point, you're in corporate America. All these things are going on where it's not necessarily fitting your expectation. Where you're like, okay, I worked this hard to get this far, and I'm not happy. How do you get to a place where you go, okay, I'm going, I mean, I know you read, so let's get to the book, The Alchemist. One of my favorite books, by the way, because I think this book is just an amazing book. So what was the first time you read that book, The Alchemist?
Yeah, so the first time I read that book was around the time that I was going to lose my job in working in the hospital. And because at that point, when I was going into that job, like I said in the beginning, like I kind of had the feeling that something was wrong. But because I didn't have the choice, right, I had to go with it. But eventually, it started to build up like more and more. And that was the reason why I had the stress and I had the anxiety almost every day going to work. I don't know if like my boss was not going to be happy with me, or like someone, like something bad's gonna happen at
like
work.
you didn't, at some point you didn't even know what to expect. Like, you go to work that day, you don't even know, like, I don't even know what the mood's going to be like. I don't even know if the person's going to like me today. You don't know what to expect, because some people you're dealing with are in a bipolar mindset. Not saying they're bipolar, but when you're dealing with a bipolar work environment, you can go into the work environment and it may be mania that day, and then you might go into the work environment that day and it's a depressive environment, or oppressive environment that day. So you don't know what to expect when you go to work.
No. And I think like it's just the working environment is really stressful in the hospital in general. And there's certainly a lot of expectation on you. And so, but like having to deal with difficult boss, like that was what, and even like the first day I started working, like people already warned me, like there's a really high turnover in this position. Like people don't stay here that long, and I think that's put like suspicion in my mind. Like something bad gonna happen.
Yeah. That's definitely what I call a red flag. Yeah.
Yes, but because I wanted to stay in this country so much, so it's like I had to like.
You said but listen to your childhood, there had to be a numbness that you like. For me, I know there's a numbness that you sort of kind of numb yourself to get through situations.
Yeah.
And you sort of kind of like put on the blinders
Yes.
so that you can just get through it. But,
yes, exactly.
How long does that last?
Not very long. Like I think
Not very long.
I think about probably 6 months or a bit more than 6 months that I had enough. And I remember I handed the report. I wrote the report and I handed it to my boss. And I told him, like in the report, I said probably there's certain miscommunication that put the wrong expectation on me, because certain things that he wanted to be done, but I didn't know about it. There wasn't any communication. Like he was the one who's supposed to train me, but he barely like come see me. But I always have to hand a report to him, and he wasn't happy with me like doing the report because I didn't know what was the requirement. And like nobody really tell me about it, and he didn't tell me about it. So there was. The communication was really horrible because he's so busy with like upper bosses with everything else. And then I was kind of like, and then he has an assistant, and then I was under his assistant and then him. And so, but then the communication didn't flow through. And so I didn't know what to expect. And certain times he actually called me stupid, like in a way, in quotes, in front of my coworkers, and
wow,
I was shocked. I was really shocked. Like I don't know, because he wasn't born in the U.S. either, and he's also like an international. I don't know if that was his communication is okay in his culture. So he was saying it's okay.
Okay, because his culture and where his background come from, maybe that was, I don't know, was he raised by a pack of wolves? I don't know. I mean, where you think that's okay, that's never okay. That's some people will fight you. Like, I don't see you outside. You call me stupid.
And they actually pull me, like they actually told me that because you're on H-1B visa, so you have to behave. So I know that there's certain different expectation on H-1B visa. So it's kind of like a discrimination in a way. That's what I felt like, because you're on a different situation, so you have different treatment. Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, it's that that someone is calling you stupid, but they're telling you that you have to behave. That's insane. Like, but I'm the one that was called stupid. So that's it's crazy. It's so things like that are happening to you.
So things like that just keep happening, and that's why I had anxiety. When I go to work.
That was part 1 of my conversation with Vivi Tai, author of the book Living Through Alchemy: A Transformational Journey to Freedom. Join me Wednesday for part 2 of our conversation. Vivi will go into detail about her transition from working in corporate America, which you just heard wasn't such a great experience for her. We will also talk about her journey to Canada, which led her to simplify into van life. She will explain day-to-day life as she lives and travels in her vintage Dodge van with her dog Marco. So join us for part 2 of that conversation. You can learn more about Vivi Tai and listen to past episodes by going to the show description or visiting www.caso.me/DJ. That's www.coso.me/DJ. You can join the podversation by emailing dj@whatsupwithdj.com, and the links to my social media are also in the show description. Until Wednesday, have a blessed day.